Hi there, and welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. I started out last week with a Friday the 13th and Saturday the 14th special on some of my photo albums that aren't exactly my scrapbooks, but they are collections of articles that are in full that were torn out from magazines. And I have four of these binders, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a nice, different thing to show instead of one of my audio media, LP, 45, cassette, or CD videos. And I just thought I'd record this. I'm not sure when I'm going to show it, but I just thought I'd get started with another one. So we had left off on the Saturday the 14th, what looked to be the beginning of Wild Heart era. So we're going to continue with that. If you are seeing this one out of order, I had mentioned, though it was funny, that I have not. What I had done is I have a bunch of magazines, and I had torn out the articles of magazines that did not have Fleetwood Mac on the cover, or they might have been on the cover, but they're not especially rare issues of magazines. That said, after I said that, then I just kept coming across, time after time where the cover was in there. But I buy a lot of clipping lots on eBay, and often that is how I have the magazine. So I may never have had the magazine, only the clipping, including the cover, or possibly it was a duplicate, or it just really didn't mean that much to me. It's hard to say. But it's just kind of funny because I said I hadn't torn any apart like that, and then there were tons with covers. So chances are there's only one that I know that I did do so far, but they're purchased in clipping lots, so that's why I have them. And it does save. It's really, it takes up way less space on my counter, on my with all my magazines and tour books and books and everything else that I have. And it did free up a lot of space, and it's kind of neat. I'm kind of like creating my own book with articles in as much chronological order as I can put them. So you can kind of start in 1975 and go up to 1980, and then just keep going from there. So that's a little introduction to what I'm showing you. Then I have certain things that are in here that are really hard to show. So this would be the Wild Heart press kit. Now, this is really interesting because there are a couple of these. First of all, this is a really rare article. This is a really neat article to find from Rock Magazine, and a special on Herbert Worthington. But back to this. There's been a couple issues. This is a fold-out three page like that with the press photo inside. And there are a couple copies. One is a very pale pink with kind of dark purple print. We'll come to find out that is a reprint, and I did not know that for many years. This is the original. As I understand, the person who had gifted this to me, was in Germany, and she was a real knowledgeable fan. We were very close friends, and that's a story unto itself, a sad one. I really treasured that friendship, but unfortunately it did not work out. And as I understand it, this was the first pressing of the press kits, and then the ones that a lot of people have, which you will see because I know I have the copy of the other one just for posterity's sake, is a lot paler. And I think they also did that because it's kind of hard to read the print, the dark on dark like that. So I think it was a bevy of things. It was just a second reprint, and then also made a little bit lighter so they were a little bit more legible, easier to read. That's just what, as I understand it. So this is kind of a neat thing, but a lot of people have not seen one this dark, and that is because this is the original. And I thought she meant the original, like out of, from another country, but as it is, it looks like. Let me get that into focus. That's not going to happen. Sorry about that. But no, that's how they are. So that's that. So that was kind of cool. Get that back in later. Back to the articles, and sometimes I'll do that. I'll slap a press kit in there because that's three pieces. I can't really display that in my scrapbook, unless I had multiple copies, and I just wouldn't want to tear it apart like that. And again, if you're also seeing this once again out of order, I apologize because I tried a tripod to get my camera to look down on these photo albums and be able to film them, and I just could not figure that out, get that to work. So this is handheld while I'm turning the pages, so hopefully it's not too jittery for you guys. The very popular High Times. This picture is actually earlier in the article, but just to, I try and put things like if it's one page, back to back, so you can see front and back, or I'll put like a plain page so that you don't have to see whatever's on the back, if that makes sense. Just to utilize the pages, so great photo. I'd also mentioned that I'm at some point going to, see again, it's funny, there's so many covers in here. I am going to try and figure out maybe if, there's some feedback or interest in being able to scan these somewhere, either on the Facebook page that I know a lot of you are here from with me, called Ivory Keys on Facebook. They have a great archive, or start one somewhere else where maybe other people can contribute, because it is really neat to have these articles. A lot of them are, from overseas in other languages. And I do my best to put everything in chronological order, so it would be really neat to just, contribute all that kind of stuff. Be able to print things out. This was a neat one from, I can't remember which magazine. Something rock, gosh darn it. Anyway, it was neat to see that, just for that one little picture of Stevie. It's not uncommon or anything like that, but it's kind of an overlooked article. Like, a lot of people didn't realize that she was mentioned in it. I'm trying to think of that darn magazine it came from. It was a short-lived magazine. I don't know. This is from Relics, which is not a short-lived. That magazine's been around forever. Yeah, I thought these were kind of fun when I did the other two. I was going to show them, I just didn't know how. My intention again had been to have that camera down so, I could talk to you and but I'm also really digging this because it's not getting any glare. This was a really interesting letter. This will be part of a whole thing another time, and we'll go into my scrapbook. But a letter from a lawyer to Stevie Nicks' mother, and we'll get more into that at another time. Not sure if I'm going to get through this whole book or if I'm going to make this two pieces like I'd done the other one. They're still in Wild Heart. Again, when I talked about in one of the other videos, and I asked you guys to comment if you are the same with some of these articles I look at, and I just recall getting them, like this is from my youth, and I remember buying the magazine with this article. I also can't confirm or deny whether these are the ones from that I've had all the years. Likely so. I mean, I'm a keeper of stuff, and this is probably the one I got when I first got it, but I don't know, it should be probably a little bit yellower, but maybe not. I've always taken really good care of my Stevie stuff, and so this was a real, I don't know, kind of a disappointing one to get, because it was in this, like, for lack of a better word, like, I don't know if it's okay to say on YouTube, but like Titty Mag, the Hollywood Sleuth or Hollywood Eye or something like that, where they always would just try to capture celebrities, girls, of course, boobs, and it's just awful. It was Celebrity Sleuth. Yeah, that's what it was. You know, if she wore anything slinky or any, not just Stevie Nicks, but anybody. And this was the one time they captured Stevie, you know, to get her as, you know, scantily clad as possible so they can include her in the magazine. I almost feel terrible having this article, but I remember seeing it for years. And, you know, but anytime any celebrity's skirt went up in the air or their cleavage or any shot where something slipped out, man, they were right there and just put it right in this magazine in the 80s. It's so skeezy. Terrible. But it's the one and only time Stevie's ever been in there, so I don't know if that's a claim to fame or terrible. You be the judge. Oops, sorry. These, I think, were actually out of a book, if I recall. This was a retired library book. It definitely is. This is not a magazine. This was one article, and then this was another one. And I don't even remember what it was, but obviously a book on rock and roll. But yeah, it was really weird, and I was just super stoked to find it. I found this like in the 90s. It was really, really exciting. Cool little press kit. Again, let's see if this is anything. Trying to keep it steady here. No, just a one-page press letter. These, again, might go into... probably not. Being as they're going over certain things, I'll probably just leave it here. But it's in the timeline, you know, between 84 to 80, or 86 to 89, I guess. Yeah, so... This would be, so this is again, this has been brought up, and I don't know, again, where these videos are going to be in other videos that you watched, but I'll bring it up briefly that there's a company called Winco, which somebody asked, and I will definitely honor the request of a full Winco video one day, telling everything about it, because that's pretty funny. Back in the day, Winco would have a catalog full of stuff that you could buy, and one of them was this timeline, this press kit of Stevie's. And lo and behold, what I received was the press kit Xeroxed and in a peachy folder, I kid you not. And, you know, they charged me probably at $20, $25 for it. So, yeah, this was the copy. Eventually, somewhere, I have the original. I eventually got my own original. Actually, I think that was for the other side of the mirror, and I think that that is complete because I have the folder, the press kit, and the photo that was inside. So I have a complete press kit on that, so the duplicate is in here. And then this would have been the little letter about the album that came with the timeline. And then there would have been a photo, but of course they never included the photo. They sold that separately because they could get a certain amount of money for that. So that'll be a great video on Winco one day. If you know, you know. I also can't wait to make one because I can't wait to hear everybody else's stories. I remember walking into a 7-Eleven one day and just picking up a magazine, waiting on a friend to get something, and this was inside. I had no idea she was going to be in the magazine, and I about lost it getting this. So that was really a cool find. And this, I'm confident, again, is the article that I got that day. So we're looking at what, 1990, so... between Behind the Mask and Time Space, right? So I'm going to wrap that up and leave it right here, and I'll start another video from this point onward. So, again, not sure when you're seeing this, but I sure appreciate you joining me, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye!